mentioned this earlier, but you can drop them off physically if you'd like. You can even email them to our main website, or you can email them to one of us directly in the office. And then we'll usually get it back to you in 24 to 48 business hours. And keep in mind that resumes are always a work in progress because we're always doing fun new things. So anytime you do something, just try to write it down somewhere. Sometimes I think the more time that passes, we forget the times and cities and states of the places that we were at things. So that way we can kind of keep track. Okay, trivia question. You're going to monitor the chat for this one. Get ready. How long do employers look at resumes? Any guesses?
24.
I believe in you guys. Give me anything.
So Wilda said 24.
24.
All right.
Elizabeth said I would guess less than a minute.
Nice.
Let's see, we have 6 seconds.
Oh, that's the winner. I know this is bananas, everybody. 6 to 12 seconds.
Wow.
So what does this tell us? You can tell that lady looks super stressed out with all the papers, right? The reason employers don't take a lot of time is because they are getting so many applications every day. So that means that we need to make sure that our materials are as straightforward as possible, right? So we want to make sure the information is clear. We're giving a great snapshot of ourselves. We're using bullet points. We're not making paragraphs in our resumes. So that way, if someone's skimming through it, they're like, oh yeah, I get the idea of what this person is about. So the 2 philosophies that we care about in this office, 1, personalize your resume. I am a big fan of talking about the 2 different types of resumes. 1 is a master resume, and that's the thing you're always updating, you're never deleting. And then your personalized resume is the one that you're picking out the specific relevant information. I really like metaphors, so I like to refer this to a closet. In your closet, you have so many clothes, right? And you're just adding all these other fun clothes. But if I'm going to go to a dance party or a soccer game, I'm going to pick out a very specific kind of outfit. That's what your personalized resume is going to be. It's going to be that thing that you're like, okay, this specifically speaks to that employer for this specific reason. And that's so you can stand out above everybody else. We also believe in using any resource necessary. I know that there is academic integrity, which is an amazing rule. Definitely don't break it. No plagiarizing. But when it comes to resume land, you can take other people's templates because you're just going to look up and be like, hey, what are the most common used templates for people that are in biology majors or in art majors or for finance or business? And you can use those kinds of templates. I'll also show you a website in a little bit that's called Own It Online, and it's another website you can go and actually get resume bullets for your resume. The biggest thing that you want to do is just make sure this experience is true. You don't want to lie, but you can take wording that is still relevant to explain the things that you've done. Let's build a resume. What you've all been waiting for. So stuff that probably should be there. Your header with your contact information, your education, your experience, any honors or awards, leadership activities, community engagement, stuff that's optional. And when I say optional, this doesn't mean like, oh, don't use it. Like some of it, like the objective statement we usually don't use because that's going to be like a paragraph form, which we already said, like we don't really want to have paragraphs on our resume. So we have a better place for that in the cover letter where paragraphs are already there. But like a summary of skills, your languages, this is optional, but it's also great skills. So if this is something that's related to the employer, if they want someone that is bilingual, or if they want certain programs like certification or software skills like Java or C++, like you're gonna want to put this on your resume for sure.
What about references?
Oh, great question. So we'll be able to show a little bit later what a reference page would look like, but that is something you never want to put on your resume. So that is something where we want to think of everything like a packet where it has the same header, but references you're going to give only when the employer asks. So the only 2 documents you're handing in is going to be the cover letter and the resume itself.
Beautiful.
Great question.
Okay. Thank you.
So at the on your header, you're going to have your name, your current address, one phone number. I know nobody has like beepers really anymore, but if you have multiple cell phones, just put your one number. And you want to use your student email. I see a lot of students with different emails like Skater Guy 88 or Sushi Love 23. Like you just want to put your student email because as I stated earlier, all these employers are trying to get in our handshake system because they want CCSU students. So let's like use that as much as we can. Eventually, that's probably going to fall off as you go into your professional career, and you're going to go back to like a Gmail or a Yahoo account. But while your education's fresh, like definitely utilize it. And LinkedIn address, which is another type of profile. If you don't have one, we have some of those guides that I showed you on our resource page, but that's something you can put in your header as well. You can put the link in there. Just make sure it is display ready. Because we love visuals, for our purposes today, here is an example of a header. Get it, Russ May? Because he's a resume. Ha. All right. Summary of skills. So I know this is in the optional section. I think this is a great alternative, though, if you really wanted that objective summary or statement. Doing this is a great way to have bulleted skills at the top of your resume to show off the skills you have that match the employer. So this is going to be hard skills. So it's not going to say stuff like gets the job done or punctual. It's going to have things like the languages you know, your computer programs, research projects or skills that you have, laboratory skills, things like that. And related coursework is also something you can put in there too, and that can even be like a separate area under your education as well. Visual. So you can see it says like counseling and advising, development and leadership, staff training, that kind of stuff. And try to think of it too. If you open a book, you're going to see all the chapters. This is almost like the chapter of your story. So then once we get into the experience section, it's almost like you're going to elaborate on some of the skills that you're saying up here that you have. So into education, you want to do reverse chronological order for your resume. So that just means put your newest stuff first and then the oldest stuff last. And that counts with education as well. So let's say you graduated from Three Rivers Community College in Norwich, Connecticut. That would go underneath your CCSU degree that you're working on now. High school diploma is usually something that's going to fall off after your sophomore year. Again, there is always in resume land a time where you might not delete it, you might keep it. Let's say you're interviewing with somebody that they went to your high school. That's a great networking and talking point. You're probably going to leave it on. I've also had students that are like a dance education major where they went to a specialized dance high school. So in that case, it was great for them to keep it on as well. GPA is also something you can put on your resume. If it's under a 3.0, we recommend not putting it on. If it's between a 3.0 and a 3.2, that's a gray area and like a game time decision. But anything higher than that, definitely throw it on there. So it would be like 3.5/4, just to show what it's out of. And where we have Dean's List listed here, the two awards that we usually recommend students don't put on the resume unless you've gotten it every single semester is Dean's List and President's List. And that's just because sometimes if you don't get it every semester, then it almost points out the semesters you didn't get it. And worst case scenario too, you got your GPA already there. So that's going to be able to speak for you and how good your grades were. This is a visual for like the education section. So you can notice too, we have the program bolded, not the school, because the program is going to be that most important piece of information. Minor, sometimes you can list a couple different ways. You can have it listed on the side like this, but let's say the job you're applying for is closely related to stuff with computer science. You might give it its own line and just enter and put it one below. And you'll notice with the date over here, it doesn't say expected graduation. It just says the month and the year. So usually after a year, it's going to fall off and it's just going to say that year by itself. But if it's in the future, you're just going to put the month. And if it's something that was a couple of years ago, it's just going to be the year. On to experience. So experience does not have to be paid on your resume to be able to go on there in this section. So a lot of people think experience is like just your work experience, and then you're describing the skills that you've done. totally great way to do it. Another great thing too, let's say you ran a fundraiser. Let's say you are the president of the Honor Society. Like, I'm sure you have a ton of experience in those things that you want to talk about to be able to talk about your skills. So any of those clubs and organizations sometimes can get thrown in here too, or even volunteer experience if you were helping to, again, do something like a fundraiser or to help run an event. And in this section, you want to make sure that you're always starting with an action verb. Here's an example of some. Tons of lists online that you can even just download onto your computer. I have one on my computer myself that I hand out to students just so they have it. You just want to make sure the tense matches. So if it's a job that's in the past, I'm going to say something like implemented. If it's something that I'm currently doing, I'm just going to say the word implement. Visual. So you can see here, if you're still doing it, you just put present. Otherwise, you're writing out the month and then you're putting the year next to it. We highlight the position title and the company in two different fonts because, as we went over earlier, 6 to 12 seconds is not a lot of time. That's why in this template specifically, there are certain things bolded, certain things italicized, and certain things in regular text, so certain pieces of information pop out. Also a great time to put those leadership activities, intramurals, those clubs and organizations, that community service on your resume. I can show you what that looks like. So these are usually kind of one-liner things. Let's say you are a member of something, but you don't have a lot of experience to talk about it. Like, you showed up, you did some things, but it's not experience section worthy. But you still want to list it because it shows that you gave back to the community and you were active on campus, which is amazing because that's what employers are looking for. You're just going to be like, okay, what was the school it was done at? What's the name of the club or organization? What did I do there? And then you can put the timeline to the right. You'll notice that all the dates are to the right in ours because that way it's all in some unified kind of format. So it's all in the same spot. And down here, you can see with this volunteer and community experience as well. So like American Red Cross, you're putting where you did that volunteer experience and then what the name of that position was that you were doing. These can sometimes be interchangeable with things like certifications as well. Really anything that's going to be able to talk you up and make you look super shiny to the employer, you're going to make headers that are based on what you've done in your own experience and make it for you. Resume dues, be honest. You want to use, if you're handing them out, usually an 8.5 by 11 size paper, because you always want to bring those with you when you're going on interviews or going for internship interviews or things like that, because sometimes people might not have printed out your resume and it's just handy to be able to give that to them. So you're going to always provide those originals. For your font, it can be anywhere between 10 and 12. You want to keep it simple. You want to have that snapshot of who you are and what you're applying for so it makes sense. As we talked about, using the different fonts to stress major points and to just keep it updated with all the stuff that you're doing as you're doing it. Resume don'ts. Don't be too wordy. Don't lie or exaggerate. Personal story. I volunteered for a True Colors conference at CCSU when it was still here, which is a conference for LGBTQ plus youth. And I got trained to be crisis counselor. Looks super cool on your resume, right? But no students came to me. They didn't need me. So therefore, I didn't use any of my skills. So I put that on my resume and then I got asked about it. And I was a deer in headlights and I couldn't even talk about my experience because I didn't help anybody in that certain situation. So even though it wasn't a lie that I did it, it came off bad in the interview because I couldn't speak to it. So make sure you can speak to the things you're putting on your resume. I kind of made a joke earlier about Skater Guy and Sushi Love. Don't have inappropriate email addresses when you're going to a business because that's going to put you automatically in the no pile. You usually don't want a photograph of yourself, any super personal information on your resume, unless, you know, for the photograph, if you're applying for like a modeling agency, like everything has its place. But usually sometimes machines that accept resumes too, they're called ATS machines. They will reject your resume based on certain graphics or photos. Salary history, that's usually something you don't want to talk about on your resume. That's something you're going to talk about in the interview process, either in the beginning when you're searching or towards the end. And then the references, as we were talking about earlier, that's going to be on a separate page. Into cover letter time. students ask me like, Jackie, should I send out cover letters? It's 2021. And I say, heck yeah, you should, because this is another thing that's going to make you stand out above everybody else, because not a lot of people do it. So it helps you establish a personal contact. It highlights a couple things on your resume, but you're just getting to be more personal and to give that elaboration. And you get to stress your skills and your education and how that's going to benefit the employer. Because we love visuals. Oh no. Sorry about that technical glitch. So normally this would look like that, which I can send you all the template after. But basically our template has 4 paragraphs. There's an intro that's 3 to 5 sentences, and that's going to talk about what your goal is for applying, your program that you're in, when you graduate, your name, all that good stuff. Your second paragraph is going to be 5 to 7 sentences. We like to call it why I'm perfect. So in that paragraph, you're going to look at that job description or internship description, and then you're going to think about the skills that you have, and you're going to mix them together. You're going to be like, I'm perfect for this position because you want skills 1, 2, 3, and I have skills ABC. That's why we're a good match. Paragraph 3, also 5 to 7 sentences. That's like where you're kissing up to the employer. You're going to research them. You're going to look up their mission and their values. So that way you can tell them why they're special to you and why you want to work for them. And then your closing is 3 to 5 sentences where you're going to be able to say, you know, thank you for your time. I look forward to meeting you for an interview, and you can repeat your goal and repeat your contact information, like your phone and your email in that paragraph. And what it doesn't show on this as well is when you're addressing it. I know when I was in high school, they said that we could say to whom it may concern. That is a lie now, or it is outdated, one of the two. So now you're supposed to either say, dear hiring manager, dear search committee, if it's a group. And first and foremost, the thing you want to try to do the first time is to get the name of the person. So you can say like, dear Susie Q. So that way you can figure out like who's reviewing your hiring materials and make it even more personal. Another thing too, with your references, your cover letter, and your resume, as I stated before, these are like a packet, so they all want to have the same header. So here is a visual of just kind of what a reference page might look like. Most employers ask for 2 to 3. We recommend maybe having 6 on standby, just as so you can switch it up if needed. Maybe get a couple professors, get a couple supervisors, and then a couple people that have worked alongside you, so you can have references that can speak about how you are at work or in academia in a few different ways. Wrapping up, we talked about career competencies, student worker versus work study, how to use handshake, our philosophies, reverse chronological order, and why the cover letter is important, and your reference page. Last but not least, carry out that job search plan or that internship search plan, because you might think that you have something in the bag and then someone else might come and they might end up getting something over you. So just never, until you sign a contract or you get that official, like, yes, we're doing this, like always keep your options open and keep putting yourself out there. This is a repeat of our contact information. I can throw my email in the chat as well. This is where you can send your resume, the careers at CCSU. Oh, there we go. Or if you have any questions, and then that will get divvied out amongst our staff. And this is our room location and all that good stuff. So before I go into questions, I did want to make sure to show you the ONET online because that's super handy. This is that website for your resume bullets. So let's say I want to say a job that I did in the past. I'm going to type it in the search bar. And then it's going to give me a bunch of jobs that are related to cashiers. So you click whichever one speaks to you the most. And then not only is this going to give you anything from like salaries in the area to technology skills to tasks. In this task section, this is where you can do this little plus sign. You can copy and paste all these sentences and put them in your resume. Just make sure that you are making sure like the tense matches. So if it's a past job, you want to say answered. If it's a current job, you can leave it answer. And it's going to go over blue. So just make sure it's not blue and that it matches the font of your resume. But yeah, that is all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if anybody has questions.
Great job, Jackie.
Hey.
Nice job, Jacqueline.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Nice job. No, but I learned about, I didn't know about to whom it may concern.